so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video, and welcome to the Gridiron. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there who's been watching my videos. Thank you. If you can maybe give this video a thumbs up or possibly leave a comment below or maybe even share this video, it would mean so much to me. But anyway, just thank you so much for just taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you. Well, the New York Giants. Back on the home front, there's not a heck of a lot going on still. Today will be the 3rd of July. The rookies got to show up in 16 days to start training camp. Then 7 or 8 days later, the 27th, I think it is, if I remember. So I guess it would be 8 days later. The veterans have to show up. But anyway, 16 days. The rookies got to show up. Hopefully we won't have a whole boatload of them in red jerseys. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And so I have a lot more to talk about then. Right now, keep an eye out. There's nothing major. I keep saying in every video, sometimes no news is good news. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Everything stays kind of quiet, all right? But until then, if something pops up that's worth a video, I'm going to do a video on it. But until then, I'll just keep doing my yearly series here. And right now, we're up to the 1944 NFL season, which just happens to be the 20th season in the history of the New York Football Giants. Now, 1944 would be very, very good to the New York Giants. They didn't win the championship. They did go to the championship game, all right, but they didn't win it. But they had a very good record. It wound up being a very exciting race. You're going to start seeing a new team start emerging, okay? That would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Not quite yet, but in 1947, because right now we're talking 1944, but 1947, right, 47, 48, and 49, 3 straight years the Eagles would win the division and go to the championship game. But you're going to start seeing the Eagles start to get a little bit better. Right? They'll start, some guy by the name of Chuck Bednarik will start emerging. They're going to have a very good team, but pretty much before this season here, the Eagles wound up in 2nd place, right? But in 1943, they were merged with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they were called the Steagles. 1943, and they were not a very good team. But even prior to that, the Eagles were not a very good team. We'll start having you'll notice in 1944 we'll have a couple new teams. One team, the Dodgers are there. Brooklyn Dodgers are not there anymore. There's two new teams that came in that are in the East. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Cardinals. Because of the war, a lot of teams were hurt because of the war. Right, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Cardinals. They merged for the 1 year. They were just called basically, I think, Pittsburgh Chicago. I don't even know if they had a nickname to them at all. But you'll notice that they were merged. So it was a very, very exciting season. The Giants in the long run outlasted. The Giants wound up 8-1-1. It was only a 10-game season. The Eagles wound up 7-1-2. So they were basically like a half a game out of first place. The Giants lost to the Eagles and they tied. The Giants were 8-1-1. Their one loss was to the Eagles and then one tie was to the Eagles. All right, other than that, they beat everybody else. The Giants during the regular season played the Green Bay Packers at home, right, at the Polo Grounds. The Giants won that game 24-0. A few weeks later, in the championship game, the Giants played the Green Bay Packers at the Polo Grounds. But unfortunately, the Packers won the championship game 14-7. But all in all, it was a very, very, very good season for the New York Giants. So let's take a deep dive, shall we, into the 1944 season of the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 20th season in history of the New York Football Giants. All right, the 1944 New York Giants football season. What we got here? The 1944 New York Giants season
was the franchise's 20th season in the National Football League. In an April 23rd article, 2013, Football Analytics website Cold Hard Football Facts named the 1944 Giants the stingiest defense in NFL history. Cool. Liking that. Oh, yeah, they had like 7.5 points a game, I think they gave up, as the team only surrendered, 75 points in 10 games. The manpower shortage on the NFL fields created a variety of statistical anomalies on both sides of the field, said the article, and the 1944 Giants are no exception. But even then, the 1944 Giants were a truly awesome unit. The average team scored 18 points per game in 1944, well above the 7.5 that they gave up. But even the best defenses can't get it done alone. Giants quarterback Arnie Herber threw 4 interceptions in New York Giants 14-7 NFL, the title game lost to Herber's former team, the Packers. The 1944 Giants were a mere number 5 in scoring offense in the 10, so they didn't score a lot. So they relied on their defense. But you'll notice here, okay, I mean, out of the 10 games, they had 5 shutouts. They gave up 1 touchdown one time, and they gave up 10 points another time, right? But you notice that the Cardinal Pittsburgh team that merged shut them out. The Boston Yanks shut them out. The Green Bay Packers, who they lost to in the championship game, they shut out the Green Bay Packers 24-0. But about a month or so later, they played them in a championship game, and the Packers wound up winning 14-7. The Giants had a couple injuries, which helped that too. But the Brooklyn Tigers, they shut them out. The Washington Redskins in Washington. The Washington good. They beat the Redskins back-to-back games as like they did in 1943 as well. So, they're very, very good defense. Very good defense. All right, the 1944 NFL season. The 1944 NFL season was the 25th regular season in the National Football League. The Boston Yanks joined the league as an expansion team. Also, the Triangle Dodgers franchise changed their name to the Brooklyn Tigers for this one season before merging with the aforementioned Yanks the following year. Meanwhile, both the Cleveland Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles resumed. In 1943, the Eagles merged with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they created the Steagles. And also in 1943, the Rams, due to the loss of manpower because of the war, a lot of teams really suffered. The Rams were no exception. The Rams ceased operations, I guess, for the 1 year. Okay, so they picked back up in 1944, though. Okay, but the Brooklyn Dodgers had been in the NFL for quite a few years. They were no longer there. All right, so it was quite a bit different. Okay, you got the Cardinal Pittsburgh team over here. The Rams came back; they weren't there last year. The Brooklyn Tigers this is their first year. The Boston Yanks, this is their first year. Okay, the Philadelphia Eagles were merged with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. Last year we had the Brooklyn Dodgers in over here, so things changed a heck of a lot. All right. Oh, what we got? While the Pittsburgh Steelers merged with the Chicago Cardinals for this one season due to player shortages as a result of World War II, the combined team known as Cardinal Pittsburgh, or Card Pitt, played 3 home games in Pittsburgh and 2 in Chicago, and set the 20th century record for the lowest punting average by an NFL team with 32.7 yards per punt. Pretty bad. The season is notable in that it featured 2 winless teams, the only such case in NFL history since 1935, when the league stabilized from its early years of revolving door membership, when winless teams were much more common, as both Brooklyn and the Card Pits finished 0-10. Since 1944, only 5 teams in NFL history had finished winless, right? And in 1944, they had 2 teams in 1 year, right? The 1960, the Dallas Cowboys, their first year in existence, they were 0-11-1. Of course, their one tie was against the Giants. 1976 Tampa Bay, 0-14. The 82 Baltimore Colts, 0-8-1. The Detroit Lions, 0-16. And the 2017 Cleveland Browns were 0-16. In the case of the Colts, the season was shortened due to a league-wide player strike. So So they only played 9 games. Now, there's a good chance, obviously, if they maybe played the whole season, they might have wound up with a win. But while the Cowboys and the Buccaneers were both expansion teams, all right, the season ended with the Green Bay Packers defeating the New York Giants in the NFL Championship game. The draft, here we go. 1944 NFL Draft was held on April 19, 1944 at Philadelphia's Warwick Hotel. With the first pick, the Boston Yanks selected quarterback Angelo Bertelli from the University of Notre Dame. Major rule changes. The free substitution rule is modified so that substitutes do not have to report to the officials before a play. Communication between the players and the coaches on the field is permitted as long as the coaches are in the designated areas along the sidelines and that they do not cause a delay in the game. If the offensive team commits pass interference in the opponent's end zone, it is just a distance penalty and no longer an order. The year before, in 1940, it was a touchback. 1942, if they committed the pass interference in the opponent's end zone, it could be either a touchback or the other team could pick if they wanted a foul. They could have a 15-yard penalty. So, division races. We had some exciting division races here. Each team played 10 games over 13 weeks. The Brooklyn Tigers lost 7 of their games by a touchdown or less. On October 29th, they had a 14-7 lead over Boston at halftime before losing 17-14 in Week 7. The same week, Pittsburgh 42-20 loss at Washington, eliminated it from the playoff contention. Pitt actually had taken a 28-23 lead over the Rams in the first game, played September 21st at Pittsburgh before falling 30-28. Its only other lead was 7-0 in the game at Chicago against the Packers, which it eventually lost 35-20. The Western Division race was no contest as the Packers won their first 6 games and stayed ahead of all challengers. In the Eastern Division, the Redskins were 5-0-1. The Eagles were 4-0-2, were both undefeated after 9 weeks. The teams met in Washington in Week 10, and the Eagles won 37-7, putting them at 5-0-2. The Redskins and the Giants are half game back at 5-1-1. The Eagles lost while the Giants and Redskins won in Week 11, putting the New York and Washington in the lead at 6-1-1. In Week 12, a crowd of 47,457 turned out in the New York Polo Ground to watch the New York Giants and Redskins. Washington had a 13-10 lead before falling 16-13. In Week 13, the Eagles beat the Rams 26-13, giving them a 7-1-2 finish. Then it waited to see how the 7-1 Giants would fare in their rematch against Washington. Once again, they played back-to-back games against the Redskins to finish the season. The Giants beat the Skins 31-0, capturing the division and the right to host the championship. So, and we got here the league leader, Irv Comp, Green Bay, was 1,159 yards. The year before that, Sid Luckman passed for over 2,000 yards in the season. So we had a big reduction in passing yards here. Bill Paschal from New York was 737 yards, and Don Hudson, as he did many a year, led the league in pass receiving 866 yards. The most valuable player went to Frank Sinkwich, halfback from Detroit. Okay. What we got here? Boston Yanks began play in Fenway Park. That's where when there was the Boston Redskins, that's where they played their football too, was in Fenway Park. The merged card pit split team the games between Chicago's Comiskey Park and Pittsburgh's Forbes Field. The Cleveland Rams resumed traditional operations at League Park, and the Philadelphia Eagles resumed traditional operations full-time at Shibe Park. Then we got coaching changes. The Brooklyn Tigers, Pete Cawthon, Ed Kubal, and Frank Bridges served as co-coaches throughout the 1944 season. The Boston Yanks' Herb Kopf became the first head coach of the new team. Pittsburgh, Chicago Cardinals head coach Phil Handler and Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Walt Kiesling served as co-head coaches of the Card Pit. Cleveland Rams, the Rams resumed operations with a new head coach, Aldo Donnelly. Philadelphia Eagles, Greasy Neal returned as the sole head coach after the team resumed traditional operations. The Washington Redskins' Dutch Bergman was replaced by Dudley DeGroot. All right. Who's that? There he is. There's Dutch Bergman. All right. Looking fancy. So that was that. The championship game. All right. Here we go. The 1944 NFL Championship game was the 12th National Football League title game, played on December 17th at the Polo Grounds in New York City. And they said about a month before this, these two teams played at the Polo Grounds. The Giants won 24-0. There was an attendance of 46,016 people. The game featured the Green Bay Packers, who are 8-2, champions of the Western Division, versus the Eastern Division champion, the New York Giants, 8-1-1. So the Giants were home. The Giants had the better record. The Giants even beat and even shut out the Green Bay Packers about a month earlier. Had the home crowd. They had a couple injuries, unfortunately, which I'll show you in a minute, which kind of did them in a little bit. The Packers were led by longtime head coach Curly Lambeau, and its stars were running back Ted Fritsch and Don Hudson, and quarterback Irv Comp. The Giants were led by head coach Steve Owen, running back Bill Paschal, former Packers quarterback Arnie Herber, and a dominant defense. Now, Arnie Herber, I think he had 4 interceptions in the championship game. The Packers were slight favorites, despite the Giants' 24-0 shutout win 4 weeks earlier. Prior to the game, the Packers had spent over a week preparing in Charlottesville, Virginia. They had completed their regular season on November 26th, while the Giants finished on December 10th. If the title game ended in a tie, the teams would share the championship. So, I mean, the Giants season ended December 10th. The game was played on December 17th over here. So the Giants had no rest. I mean, the Green Bay Packers had like 3 weeks rest. They finished and they had 3 weeks to rest up for this game. And that wound up being huge. Green Bay scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, then yielded one early in the fourth to win 14-7 for their 6th and final league title under Curly Lambeau. Their first since 1939 when they beat the Giants at 27-0. The Packers did not return to the championship game for 16 years, until 1960 when they went to they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 17-13 at Franklin Field, and won the following year, 1961. They beat the snot out of the Giants 37-0. The first of 5 titles in 7 seasons in the 1960s under head coach Vince Lombardi. And I said, you'll notice here, right? They scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter. All right. Giants got one early in the fourth quarter to come back and make it 14-7. Now here's the chance. Here's this right. Yeah, the Giants didn't have a whole heck of a lot of offense going on here. The Packers ran the ball 49 times for 163 yards. Giants ran the ball 30 times for 85 yards. Packers threw 3 passes, completed 11, had 3 intercepted. Right. Giants were 8 out of 22, but they threw their 4 interceptions. Obviously, the 4 interceptions killed a couple drives for the Giants, which wound up being huge. The total net yards, the Packers had 237, the Giants only had 199. Neither team lost a fumble. And then you got there's 7 interceptions. The Giants had 11 penalties for 90 yards, which wound up being huge as well too. So, but you'll notice here, I mean, like the Packers had 3 guys that ran the ball at least 10 times. Right? The Giants had 2. Right? Ward Cuff ran the ball 12 times for 55 yards. He was the best one. But here we got whoops. Now we got the victors go to spoils here. They're cheering it up in the Giants locker room right there. There's their coach right there, lifting them up on it, if you want to call him that, lifting them up on his shoulders. What do we got here? Here we go. Here's Ted Fritsch of the Green Bay racing off tackle in the second quarter. He carried the ball 27 yards to the 1-yard marker. So then they scored. Okay, so off tackle. Look at that face. That's a face of determination right there, I'll tell you. But you notice he got a nice seal block here, right? Block in the end right here. Belheim trying to come in. Probably didn't make the tackle. This is because he got down to the 1-yard line. So nice, they blocked. Good seal. Right? So, first down. Giants had 10 first downs. It says here they only had 70 yards rushing. Yeah, I mean, they didn't do good. See, Packers top Giants for a title, 14-7, 46,000. See Fritsch score on a plunge and then on a pass in the second period onslaught. Injuries hamper the losers. Injuries hamper. Paschal and Calligaro forced out New York Rally's cuff crossing in the fourth quarter. But I mean, that's kind of what wound up doing them in there. For the first 30 minutes of yesterday's playoff game with the Greenback National Football League Championship, the Giants were like a ship on the run without a rudder or guns, and you can guess what their fate was. Deprived of services of their star rookie backer up, Len Calligaro, on the first play he was in and forced to struggle along without help from the league's best ground gainer, Bill Paschal. The New Yorkers finally went down 14-7 in the professional classic, but they were far from disgraced. Kept handcuffed, hogtied, and hamstrung all through the first two periods of the 12th annual struggle between the Eastern and Western Division leaders, the Giants trailed by 2 touchdowns at the half, came out after the intermission, outfought their able-bodied opponents from there on. Scoring on the first play of the fourth quarter, the roused Giants, fighting like madmen, had the 46,000 spectators who almost filled the Polo Grounds in a dither as they reached for what appeared to be the tying score in the making 5 minutes before the final gun. Duhart intercepts pass, driving to a first down on the Packers' 42 with every card exposed through Paschal's injury. The Giants' assault was finally halted when Paul Duhart intercepted one of aged Arnie Herber's passes inside the Packers' 20-yard stripe. And so even though they lost the game, the Giants finished in a blaze of glory, considering the handicap they had to work under, with Paschal out all week and able to get in only a couple of plays before his ailing ankle gave way on him on the first scrimmage play in the second half. No doubt the psychological effect of the loss of Calligaro and Paschal worked against the Giants in the beginning, and before they could shake themselves out of it, the game was lost. Put in a deep, deep hole right in the beginning of the game, they were kept there throughout the opening half, during which time they were never able to get beyond their own 35-yard line, and only once that far out from their own goal line. Said fresh from a long layoff, but that lethargy the Giants might have gained at least a tie with the Wisconsin opponents, who were fresh from a 3-week layoff. The Packers had 3 weeks off, nice and fresh. The Giants didn't. The Giants were banged up. The Giants suffered, unfortunately. See how it is nowadays? They make it even. All the teams finish on a Sunday or whatever, the championship game. Both teams get the same amount of rest. Well, here it wasn't. Here the Giants had 1 week. The Packers had 3 weeks. Giants got screwed. So it is what it is. I mean, perhaps if the Giants had gotten 3 weeks rest as well, like the Packers did, maybe their 2 stars could have played, could have maybe made a difference, might have been a different outcome. Who knows? But it is what it is. I mean, all in all, it was a very successful season for the New York Giants. Now, they wouldn't make it back to the playoffs or the championship or anything in 1945. However, in 1946, they would have another very good season, and it would go back to the championship game.
So you see, the New York Giants, 1944 was a very good season. Once again, another successful season for the New York Giants. Unfortunately, they went to another championship game, and they lost. I mean, before the Super Bowl era started, okay? Super Bowl started in 1966, right? So you got from 1965 to 1933, all right? From 1933 to 1965. Those were just the championship. Whoever won the champion was crowned the NFL champion, the football champion. Okay, period. There was no Super Bowl or nothing. So between 1933 and 1965, the Giants went to 14 championship games. All right, they did very well. Unfortunately, they only won 3. They lost 11. Which also included they lost their last 5 they went to. So so at one point they were 3-6 at one point, which is not very good, and then they lost their next 5, so they wound up 3-11. But I mean, they had a lot of good teams, a lot of winning records. The first 20 seasons, I think, they only had 3 losing records. I mean, That's pretty good. I mean, for us Giant fans right now, we would take that in a heartbeat. I mean, all we keep doing nowadays is getting losing records. I mean, we would take a winning record, But I mean, back then, the Giants had some very, very good teams back then. Now, the Giants in 1945, wouldn't make it back to the championship game, right? But however, in 1946, right, the Giants would head on back to the championship game. Said once again they wouldn't win, but they would make it to the championship game. Then after 46, you're going to start seeing a huge theme, right? From 1933 to 1946, basically, except for one exception, the Detroit Lions in 1935, right? But other than that, other than Detroit Lions in 1935, there was only 4 teams that went to the championship games. It was the Redskins, the Giants, the Bears, and the Packers. Those are the only, pretty much, except for the 1 year with the Lions, the only 4 teams that went to the championship game was the Packers, the Bears, the Redskins, and the Giants. But you're going to start seeing a little theme going on here. Once 1947 starts rolling around, you're going to start seeing more and more teams in there. You're going to start seeing the Eagles in there. You're going to start seeing the Rams in there. You're going to start seeing the Cardinals in there. You're going to start seeing the Lions in there. You're going to start seeing the Browns in there. Because the Browns joined the NFL League in 1950, and when they came in 1950, they took the league by storm. So I mean, so you're going to have some good teams coming up on the horizon. So that's going to put the Giants, unfortunately, a little bit on the back burner as far as making the championship. So once 1946 is over, the Giants will not make it back to the championship game until 1956. So, but I said 1945. Next season coming up, the Giants didn't make it to the playoffs, but in 1946, they went back to the championship game. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo!